6 game developers made an entire video game with zero communication. The rules of this challenge are simple. I would begin work on the project, being able to make progress for 4 hours, then I would pass it on to the next developer, who would also have 4 hours to work on the game, and so on. We're not allowed to communicate, share ideas, or tell the other developers in which direction we were hoping to take this project. This means that major misunderstandings can occur and are part of the fun. So with that said, let's see what we end up with. So I'm the first developer. I wanted to make a little strategy game, an experience where you control armies, have to defend a castle maybe. I began making a tiny trooper in Photoshop and quickly got those moving around in Unity using the C# programming language. You can change where your little armies patrol by controlling the standard bearers. I then drew a castle and a couple other characters. Each troop would have a slightly different behavior. For example, these defensive soldiers are linked to the castle, and these tanks randomly move within a confined area. One thing I like about this challenge is how boldly it made me jump into the project. I didn't need to have the whole game figured out. I could just get started on some big theme or concept and then trust that the next developers would find creative ways to expand on it. Anyway, I added some resources, gold and mana, which can be collected with these little farmer characters. I also added UI so players can spawn characters into the world. With my 4 hours quickly running out, I added nasty goblin armies that frantically rush around the map. Hopefully the next dev will have them wreak complete havoc. So that's me done. I think I've made a decent base to kickstart this challenge. There's loads of different ways to, take this game, improve it, tweak it, change it, whatever. So I hope the next developers are going to do a good job and look forward to seeing the end results.
Okay, so I guess I'm next. My name is TheShelfman, and I have no idea of what to expect. Oh boy. Okay, that looks nice. Okay, so we have a bunch of characters. I can place down characters, and they look very nice. I'm assuming that I am protecting this castle. I'm not entirely sure what's going on other than that. These guys are going to the castle and they're just moving past it now, and these guys all have an area in which they're doing things. Holy cow, are you all fighting? Fight! Go get them! I don't think they're fighting. Yeah, let's think about what I'm gonna do. I'm going to be adding some kind of cost to the units, so you cannot just place however many you want. Secondly, I want to make sure that people can see how many it costs, so they're not just blindly placing things and finding out that specific unit costs a lot of gold. And assuming that this could take a little while, we're also gonna try to implement combat. Let's go! This should be interesting. 25, 0, 45, 10, 80, 40, 110, 75, and it looks great. It's very readable, it's very good, I like it a lot. So that's awesome. That's another thing, you can't switch. So I think maybe it should be right click to place them. To speed things up, I made sure that you can switch the selected unit or even deselect them completely before I started working on a basic combat system. That's not right. That one was a little hard to figure out, but eventually I got it to work by giving each unit its own behavior where they deal damage every second, kinda like how the villagers gather resources, and they do this based on who has entered their collider. Finally, I also gave the castle a health bar and allowed the goblins to attack that as well, and when the castle is out of health, the game would be over. Then I made a simple script that draws objects in front of one another based on their position on the map, and to finish my 4 hours on the game, I added a few sound effects for things like gathering resources, placing units, and cancelling the placement. So that was quite interesting. I'm very happy with how my part turned out. I'm excited to see what the next person will do with it. It seems pretty cool. Yeah, let's go!
Alright guys, so I've done my first hour and a half of development. It took quite a bit of time to get used to the project, but now that I've understood the project, I've implemented a cannon that you can buy from the shop. It's quite an expensive object, and basically the cannon is just going to shoot projectiles at random goblins that are arriving. And my next idea for this project is maybe have a princess that is going to be randomly patrolling around the kingdom. Alright, so I've been working for 3 hours now, so I've got 1 hour left. Basically, you could lose the game either when the castle gets destroyed or if your princess gets killed by the goblins. I've also added a new enemy type, so it's the red goblin gang. Just changed the sprite color to red, but the red goblin gang basically just goes straight towards the castle.
so they're quite vicious. Then I just took some time to also playtest the game a little bit and tweak some values. Alright, so for the last hour I added a cool little bomb. So it's another item that you could purchase, and it has a splash damage effect. Pretty satisfying to watch, and it's going to be quite useful, I think, in the game.
Alright, we are halfway through the challenge, but the best is yet to come. Tiny break to remind you that we have made some of the top rated courses on Udemy. So if you also want to create video games, such as a top-down shooter, platformer adventure, or strategy game, grab a course for only $10 using the link in the description.
Okay, so I just received the project files and did a quick playtest. The most pressing problem is that it took me a bit to figure out how to play the game. To fix that, I made some quality of life improvements. At least I think they're improvements. So now there's a tooltip bar that slides in and out and can be customized to say whatever is needed at the time. I also noticed during my playtest that some of the clicking felt unresponsive. Turns out the point of the cosmetic cursor didn't line up with the actual cursor, so I fixed that. I changed the look of the buttons so that the items that can't be purchased yet look different than the items that can. I also added some short descriptions and unit names when the buttons are moused over. It came mostly out of necessity because I had no idea what these two units were. I mean, seriously, I know you guys probably know what these are, but I thought this was an inverted Minecraft cake you could feed to the princess to heal her. Turns out I was trying to feed the princess a bomb. Oops. Anyway, I ended up attempting to draw these items along with a new unicorn unit in the Blackthornprod style. They turned out okay, but you can certainly tell these weren't drawn by Noah. While I was in the unit image files, I changed some of the colors to give a more clear indication of what is friend and foe. And in hindsight, I probably should have redrawn the princess, but I didn't want to step on anyone's toes, and if it was okay for any unit to be different, it would be the princess. So I just kept it the same style she was in, changed her color, and gave her a crown. I obviously had to leave some sort of creative mark on the game, so I added in a unicorn unit that flies by and heals the princess and castle. I made the cost of this mana heavy because while I was balancing the game, I noticed that mana tended to pile up and never be spent, and flying healing unicorns seemed like a pretty magic intensive thing. There's so much more I'd love to do, like getting post-processing to work and adding a high score to encourage replayability, but unfortunately my time is up and it's time to pass the project on to the next person.
Okay, we only have 2 more developers left to work on the project. Can they complete this strategy game and turn it into a fun, unique and playable experience? This is Owen. Contrary to the other developers, he does not have a YouTube channel but has won the GMTK Jam multiple times and has launched a fantastic local multiplayer game on Steam. Let's see what he can come up with for this Pass the Game challenge.
I guess when I first got the project, I did sort of start making music first so I could think about what I wanted to do. I spent about half an hour on the music. The next thing I did was I started reworking the enemy spawning script.
Excellent. So what did you change with the enemy spawning script?
I think it just spawned them constantly over time, and I instead switched over to a sort of wave-based thing of it spawns a group of enemies all at once and then gives you a little bit of a delay. And then that would also allow me to add the adaptive music, so when that starts spawning a wave of enemies, it will slowly fade the music to a more intense version of itself. I think that's when I started messing around with like the color palette. Didn't really like the sort of desaturated green of the ground. Lots and lots of red enemies on a green background, and that's not very great for colorblind people. Next, I started working on trying to introduce all the different elements of the game bit by bit. So I removed all of the starting units that the player had and made it so they could only buy the little villages at the start. So they had to learn how to buy and place them into the level and learn how to get more money.
Slowly introducing the player to the mechanics, not overwhelming them right from the beginning. To simplify the game further, Owen also removed the princess character, which Liam had introduced into the world. This way you only have to worry about defending the castle.
Alright, so I've imported the packages, had a little bit of a play. I've immediately thought of a few things that I would like to upgrade on this game. For one, the mana and the gold are basically the same thing, right? You're just like combining them and buying units. I would like to make the mana an actual special currency, possibly add some actual interactivity to your cursor itself. You're kind of like a god, you're moving your units around, and maybe the cursor itself can kind of like catch fire or mana fire, you know, and then you can burn the enemies or make fireballs or something like that. And yeah, but I'm going on holiday now for 5 days, so I'm going to think about it and come back and then spend my 4 hours. So hopefully all that thinking is not against the rules. But yeah, I'll see you in 5 days after my holiday. I had 2 main goals: adding a reason to play and god powers. Right now, mana is basically gold, so I wanted to give it a new function, which is where god powers came in. First power, hold your cursor over the fire to light it ablaze, and set fire to the landscape. I slapped in a new background and began executing my master plan. I removed the cannon, bomb, and unicorn from the shop so that I could make them more of an interactive experience. I thought it would be cool if the cannon spawns in broken and you need to fix it before it can be used. Some quick blood splats to juice it up a bit. To drive home the vengeful god power concept, I drew a goofy hand as well as expanding the castle sprite with a mana fire, which grows as you collect more of it. This is where you light your hand on fire. Oh yeah, you can flick enemies when your hand is not ablaze. For the bombs, I created a factory which can be worked by the villagers. I also added extra interactability by requiring the fuse to be lit before it explodes. The idea here was to force players into never sitting still. There should always be something to do with your cursor. I finished up by juicing everything up a bit with sounds and effects, but panicked when I remembered the unicorn. I did have a plan to summon it by moving the braziers into a specific pattern, but at this point I had reached my time limit. I apologize for whoever added the unicorn. I'll buy you a beer. Now, when building the game to hand it over to Noah, I noticed a bunch of horrible bugs I introduced, as well as being disgustingly imbalanced, but hopefully it's still enjoyable to play. My last addition was adding a high score to give it a bit of replay value. And that is all from Tarodev.
I've not seen the project since starting it.
Same.
And so we're gonna have our first look. So let's go.
Even more crazy for you because you're the first person to ever work on the
Yes.
game.
Whoa. For now, what's really cool is that everything's starting really chill, really peaceful. There's no enemies attacking me, and I just see
The art style changed. This wasn't the castle.
exactly. So the castle.
originally
So
there.
I would say like the essence of the castle's there, the structure and stuff. There's definitely been tweaks made,
Yeah.
and I like what I see. Place a
'Cause
villager.
I added a cannon and a princess. There aren't there yet.
The princess was removed.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa!
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
So there's wave systems now because there wasn't any wave system when I had the game.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I feel like what developers could do in such a short period of time. And oh my god, my cursor is on fire.
Did you burn the enemies? Oh.
I can freaking knock them back. Oh, that is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
There's only gold, whereas before there was gold and mana.
So I wonder what the trees do then. I think the trees you can collect them.
I
right?
think just
yeah,
gives
you
you
can
gold
look,
as
look.
well.
Look, I'm burning the enemies. They're actually on fire.
The game has changed so much in just a couple of cycles, which is pretty amazing. I've got fire if I need fire. And I've got these bombs. I'm not sure how to use the bombs yet.
Oh, wait.
It's by putting fire on the bomb.
Man, look at that. There's hordes of enemies now. Now it's getting really challenging. I want to expand on this game.
Fun.
I want to.
There's a new Tower of Think who's got deblocked.
So there you have it. You can play the game for free using the link in the description. Massive thank you for every single dev featured in the video for taking part. Their combined incredible creativity really made for something special, as I hope you'll agree. Each dev has a fantastic YouTube channel which I recommend you check out using the links in the description. Owen does not have a YouTube channel but made Wibbly Witches a deathmatch masterpiece which you should absolutely try. Make sure to comment if you want to see more videos like this, and if you do, which devs would you like to see take part? Lastly, remember that if you want to learn how to make games, we have 5 courses that teach you exactly how to do so over on Udemy. Perhaps creates from A to Z a top-down shooter, or a platformer adventure. Okay, thanks a ton for watching, and see you really soon. Cheers!